Good afternoon, everyone. Shalom. I'm Shosh Bedrosian, spokeswoman for the National Public Diplomacy Directorate here in the Prime Minister's office. I'm going to take a few questions after a couple of very brief points to share with you. Just make sure you put your questions in the chat of this Zoom with your name and your outlet. It is Tuesday, October 21st, and today is day 746 since our hostages were kidnapped into Gaza and Hamas launched this brutal war on Israel. Last night, the remains of one of our hostages returned back to Israel after it was transferred to the hands of the IDF inside of Gaza, and a military ceremony took place in the presence of an IDF rabbi. The casket was brought straight to the Forensic Institute for identification. The remains have been identified as Sergeant Major Tal Chaimi, who leaves behind his wife and his 4 children. Tal lived on kibbutz near Yitzhak and was a commander of the emergency response team there. On the morning of October 7th, Tal joined the response team to defend his community, and he fought against dozens of terrorists at the gate for hours. Tal was murdered that morning, and his body was kidnapped into the Gaza Strip. Tal was one of hundreds of heroes from that tragic morning who put his life on the line to defend his community. May his memory be a blessing. 33 of our hostages have returned home so far under this framework brought forth by Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump, with the release of 20 of our living hostages and the remains of 13 of our deceased hostages. It's been 8 days, and what was supposed to be the release of all of our hostages at one time has not come to fruition. This was a commitment that was made under the first phase of this plan by all parties, but Hamas has not upheld their side of the agreement. We are demanding the release of our remaining 15 deceased hostages that are still in captivity. Prime Minister Netanyahu reiterated these words in the Knesset yesterday, that Israel is committed to bringing them all back home, every last one of them, and he explained these are not empty words. This is a promise he made from day one of this war, and it's a promise he will see through until the end. The Prime Minister is continuing to hear the stories of survival from our returned living hostages. One of them recently from Rome Braslavsky, who was at the Nova Music Festival on that Saturday morning. Rome, who was working security at the festival, used his body to shield participants who were massacred on that day. He was kidnapped by terrorists into Gaza, with his captors repeatedly pressuring him to convert to Islam. The Prime Minister echoes the words of Rome, who looked his captors in the eyes and said, "I am a Jew, I am strong, I will not break." As Israel continues to uphold its side of the ceasefire plan after Hamas blatantly violated it by attacking us and killing 2 of our soldiers 2 days ago and crossing into our soldiers' yellow line position in Gaza, the Prime Minister said Hamas immediately felt the weight of Israel's hand after its series of airstrikes and hitting dozens of terror targets inside of the Gaza Strip. Now, we, of course, are now back in a ceasefire position. We maintain that line and have now physically marked the yellow line in Gaza to establish tactical clarity on the ground. The IDF has marked the line with a concrete barrier with a pole painted yellow standing 3.5 meters high. The concrete barriers are being placed every 200 meters apart from each other. Prime Minister Netanyahu made it clear from the beginning, the ceasefire is not a license for Hamas to threaten us, and aggression against us has and will pay a very heavy price. We've had it with the breaches of the ceasefire. We will enforce it. Our heroic soldiers will defend us if a threat arises. Now, in coordination with President Trump, Hamas's military and governing power will be destroyed, as laid out in the 20-point plan. Now, let me fill you in on some of the details of Vice President J.D. Vance and Second Lady Usha Vance's visit here to Israel. They've officially arrived here about midday Israel time. The Prime Minister is hosting an official welcome ceremony event at the Prime Minister's office in Jerusalem around 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Now, after that, a personal meeting will take place between the Prime Minister and Vice President Vance. And following that, their teams will also meet. The Prime Minister is scheduled to meet with the Vice President to discuss mainly two things: the security challenges before us and the political opportunities that lie ahead. The Prime Minister says together, with the tightest ever bond between Jerusalem and the White House, and between the Prime Minister and President Trump, they will face the challenges against us that our nations face and unite to maximize opportunities for peace with our neighbors, both in our neighborhood and further afield. Together, and the policy of the Prime Minister is that peace is made through strength, not weakness. Israel is stronger than ever today, and so is our renewed partnership with the United States and President Trump, which has never been closer and tighter than what it is today. The Prime Minister and his team also met with the head of Egyptian intelligence today here in Jerusalem. They discussed advancing President Trump's framework, Israel-Egypt relations, and strengthening the peace between the two countries, and additional regional issues as well. It is also Prime Minister Netanyahu's birthday today, so we want to wish him a very happy birthday. And to see a raw, unfiltered, and personal side of the Prime Minister, we want you to follow our new Instagram account at PM Press Office. That is at PM Press Office. That will feature behind-the-scenes content here in the Prime Minister's office, and also a direct line of communication with the Prime Minister himself. We have been inundated with questions from people around the world for the Prime Minister, especially from Iranians who see Israel as a sign of hope in the Middle East. I'll now take a few questions. So the first question, Lior Soroka from the Washington Post. Can you please confirm that Witkoff and Kushner held meetings yesterday with the head of Israeli military intelligence and the head of the IDF's planning directorate? Thank you. How I can answer that is just to confirm to you that Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner met with the Prime Minister here yesterday. The next question from David Clements from the News Forum in Canada. Prime Minister Carney has said that Canada is prepared to arrest Netanyahu if he were to travel to Canada. Does the PMO have a response? We believe that Prime Minister Carney should, of course, reconsider this and welcome Prime Minister Netanyahu, the leader of the only Jewish state and democratic country here in the Middle East, to Canada, if that were to ever happen. The recognition of a Palestinian state is a reward and it's a prize for terrorism. The Prime Minister has said this since countries decided to recognize it a few weeks ago. That has only poured fuel on an anti-Semitic fire in Canada. This is Joel Pollack from Breitbart News. The New York Times says that J.D. Vance is coming to Israel to make sure that the Netanyahu government does not vacate the ceasefire. The Qatari regime blames Israel for violations of the ceasefire over the last few days. Can you respond to this? So what I can tell you, Joel, is that the relationship between the United States and Israel has never been stronger before. This is where we are at. Because of this deal, which was put forward by Prime Minister Netanyahu, and of course, with the help, the enormous help from President Trump, this is why we are here. The United States and Israel are working in full coordination together to make sure that all sides are upholding this ceasefire. Israel is doing their part. We are waiting for Hamas to do theirs. Like we've said the last few days, Hamas violated the ceasefire by attacking our soldiers, killing 2 of them in Rafah just the other day. We want the bodies of our 15 hostages back, and that is what we are working to make sure it gets done here. Or Shaked from Israel Hayom, in light of Hamas's repeated violations, including a few days ago resulting in the deaths of 2 soldiers and another violation today, what does it say about the prospect of maintaining the ceasefire? What I can tell you right now, and like I said before, it is paramount that all sides uphold this ceasefire. Israel is doing their side. We are continuing to fulfill what the criteria is, what was put down in this plan. We are expecting Hamas to do the same. But let me tell you something. There should be no violations, and Israel does not have patience for this. It was decided at the beginning when Hamas agreed to this, all 48 of our hostages will be released at one time. Here we are. It's been 8 days since all of this has really gone into effect. 8 days since our 20 living hostages have come out, and we are still waiting for 15 deceased hostages to be released. We are not accepting any excuses from Hamas, and no journalist should be perpetuating the lies that Hamas cannot find these bodies. We know know Hamas can find them, and we are waiting, and we are expecting, and we are demanding for them to be returned. This is from Claire Duhamel from France 24. Will Rafah border crossing reopen tomorrow? What I can tell you about the Rafah crossing, it's closed right now, but all aid is continuing to enter the Gaza Strip as usual. This is from the Financial Times. Hi, can you comment on broad reporting in Israeli press and U.S. press that U.S. Vice President has been dispatched by Donald Trump to ensure that Prime Minister Netanyahu remains committed to the ceasefire and the remaining negotiations to bring the war to a complete end? Like I said before, the Prime Minister is beyond committed. He's the one that helped this plan come to fruition. Let's not forget that, of course, with the help from President Trump. And this coordination between the two of them, between the two countries, is ongoing every single day. So what I can tell you about that is we are waiting for Hamas to fulfill their side of the agreement. Any violation has come from Hamas, the terror organization themselves. But the partnership between the United States and Israel right now has never been stronger. And I will reiterate my words. We are in full coordination with the United States, and we welcome Vice President Vance. Going through some of these questions. I'm not sure what the outlet is. I believe it's Phoenix TV. If Hamas does not follow the ceasefire deal, when and how will the IDF will do to prevent that from happening? The IDF will know what to do. That's what the Prime Minister has said if Hamas continues to violate this agreement. Just going through the rest of these questions. Aaron Schachter, PRX, GBH The World. How does Israel plan to deal with the genocide court cases? Let's get something very straight. There is no genocide that has ever happened in the Gaza Strip, and that's very, very clear. Israel conducts themselves with decorum in every aspect of this and has always worked to prevent all civilian casualties inside of the Gaza Strip. There has never been a policy of genocide in any capacity inside of Gaza. This is from Nikkei, Japanese newspaper. Does the Prime Minister have a plan to see the Vice President today before the official ceremony today? What I can tell you, we are welcoming Vice President Vance. Like I said, he's officially in Israel. I believe he touched down around midday today, and he has plans to meet with the Prime Minister tomorrow formally here in the Prime Minister's office. We will be having a large welcome ceremony for him and Second Lady Usha Vance. And then from there, the two will have personal meetings in addition to team meetings after that. James Marlowe, freelance broadcast journalist. Has any progress been made on those Gazan families expressing a wish to leave the Strip for a new life? And can you reveal any country willing to cooperate? Israel wants to make sure that people in Gaza, of course, can have the life that they want. And that's where we're at, is following the 20-point plan. And to make sure that all parties are following that 20-point plan, the first step and the first phase of this is to get all of our hostages out. We are waiting for the release of 15 of our hostages, but also the 20-point plan lays out exactly what will take place, which is the demilitarization of the Gaza Strip, making sure that Hamas has no part in the governance of Gaza ever again, and that the Gaza Strip does not pose a threat to the state of Israel in the future. This is Jean Malta. Will there be a press conference tomorrow by J.D. Vance and Netanyahu, please? I don't have the exact details on the schedule right now. Those are all the questions I see at this point in time. Thank you for everyone who joined us.